Every Friday for the NFL season, we are going to be doing a ranking or tier list. We haven't really decided if it's going to be power rankings all year, but that's what I'm going to do right now to start out the year. So first off, we got our tiers. We have the Super Bowl contenders, the playoffs, middle of the pack, any given Sunday, and basement. So the ones that are self-explanatory are self-explanatory. Really, the only one that I got to explain is probably any given Sunday. So the way I look at any given Sunday teams are, when a team is playing them, they may look at them and say, okay, this team isn't very good, but it's a team that I feel like at least stands a chance against another NFL team. Whereas like the basement teams, which I'll get to, I'm kind of counting them out every Sunday. I'm not counting a win on their schedule. Whereas like any given Sunday, I could see them winning that game. I hope that makes sense. This is basically week 1 power rankings. The first game's already been played. Doesn't really matter at this point. I still view those teams the same. So first off, let's start out with the Arizona Cardinals. And they strike me as a team that's an any given Sunday team, because when you look at who they are, what they've built on offense, I think they have one of the most underrated offensive units in the league. Now, defensive line is really where you're going to struggle. I also see some issue with the secondary, but not as much compared to what the defensive line is. I think what they're doing in Arizona is probably one of the best rebuilds that I've seen in the league currently going on. So they're a team, in my opinion, with Kyler Murray at quarterback, who can be pretty feisty really any time they play a game. Let's move into the Atlanta Falcons. So the Falcons should default into the playoff tier. I don't necessarily know if I trust them at this point. They should win the NFC South. They really should. And their defense was boosted up. I expect them to be a playoff team, but I'm also very tempted to put them in middle of the pack, because middle of the pack teams to me are teams that can finish anywhere from like 7-10 to 9-8, right? So there's about a 2-win, 7-8, there's like a 3-win, kind of threshold there. And they strike me as a team that could easily go 9-8, win the division, and make the playoffs. So that's kind of where I have them. Now, if everything goes right, they should win 10 games. If everything goes right, they should win 11 games. But we know it's not how the NFL season goes, and that's something we may struggle to see, especially with Kirk Cousins coming off an Achilles. You have a new head coach, new offensive coordinator. Their defensive line is a little bit older. Obviously, we saw Braylon Trice tear his ACL, I believe, in the preseason. So, any hope for a younger pass rusher? They got Matthew Judon, who is good, but he's coming off a torn bicep, which really shouldn't impact the explosiveness that he has in his lower body, but he is like an older player, so it's going to be interesting to see where he comes back. I am going to put them in middle of the pack. Baltimore Ravens, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. They really should be a Super Bowl contender. My concerns for them, the shadow is real bad. I had to use my phone light, but my concerns for them come from the offensive line, because it's 3 out of 5 new pieces, and they are younger. So it is going to be interesting. I think this team has all the talent in the world, though. They really should be Super Bowl contenders, and I'm not going to spend too much time on them. Buffalo Bills, I think they are a playoff team. I think with the level of quarterback that you're getting with Josh Allen, he automatically makes you a playoff team if you have a semi-competent roster, which the Bills have above that. The Bills have a pretty good roster, honestly. I think the overhaul in the wide receiver room may take a couple games, but overall, it shouldn't ruin their season, and I could see them, albeit even if they're a 7 seed, that the Bills should easily be a playoff team. Moving into the Carolina Panthers, I have them in the basement. I don't think this is really that surprising. I do think that their offense can take steps this year. Jonathan Brooks, Xavier Legette, Deontay Johnson, Jatavion Sanders. They brought in 2 guards. They brought in Robert Hunt and Damian Lewis, I believe. No. I'm blanking. I think Damian Lewis went to the Rams. I'm blanking on this. But I know they brought in 2 guards. And with that being said, Ike Ekwonu could make another big leap or hopefully get back to what he showed his rookie year, because last year was a little bit of a step back. And, I do struggle a little bit with their defense. Hopefully J.C. Horn can stay healthy. They have Jadeveon Clowney. Hopefully they're able to get the most out of him. Derek Brown signed an extension. He's probably their best player on defense. So I do think that the Panthers, albeit heading in the right direction, are still kind of laying that foundation this year, I believe. I think we'll see an increase with Dave Canales. So I am going to put the Bears in the playoffs, right? But to me, they're a 7-seed playoff team. And while I don't have them in the middle of the pack, because my belief is they have a more talented roster than what the Falcons have, right? They should be a 10 or 11 win team. I do think there are going to be issues with, I don't want to say issues, learning curves with having a rookie QB. Now, with that being said, this team could be a very good playoff team. So I don't want to put them in the middle of the pack because their roster is better than middle of the pack. With all their additions on offense, their draft picks, their defense, they're a better team than the Falcons. But I could also see them having that 7 to 9 win range. I think that's very realistic for the Bears this year. Moving into the Cincinnati Bengals, anytime Joe Burrow is healthy, Jamar Chase is on the field, T. Higgins is on the field, Trey Hendrickson's on the field. This team, especially with their tackle situation now, where Marius Mims kind of gets to wait in the wings of Trent Brown Jr., Orlando Brown Jr., 3 massive tackles. They have depth there. I am a little bit concerned about the run game and the interior of the offensive line. But with that being said, they still have a Super Bowl caliber roster. Buffalo Bills, Cleveland Browns. I have them in Super Bowl contender, and they could easily be a playoff team, like one tier lower. This is all hinging. You know what? I'm actually going to put them in playoffs, and the reason I'm putting them in playoffs is, do they probably have one of the top? They have a top 5 roster in the NFL, right? But we know that the issue is Deshaun Watson. Can Deshaun Watson play like a top 20 quarterback? Because he's playing like a bottom 5 quarterback. If he can play like a top 20 quarterback, this team is a Super Bowl contender. But if he's not even giving them top 20, the Browns are going to be stuck in this playoff race because they have such a talented roster. But if you can't get quarterback play, we know that's what separates teams in the playoffs. Dallas Cowboys, I have middle of the pack. I think, they are really, really top heavy with talent. Obviously, Tyler Guyton and Cooper Beebe could be big, big, big rookie draft picks if they perform. I believe they're both starting. You sign CeeDee Lamb. You're going to have to sign Dak or Micah Parsons. You have Mike Zimmer in there now instead of Mike McCarthy. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do on defense, to see if they can live up to what they were last year before they burned out in the second half of the season. You're kind of limited in your running game. I'm not going to lie. Zeke, Rico Dowdle, and Dalvin Cook don't really move the needle for me. Unfortunately, I do think they could make the playoffs, but I think they'll probably be more of a middle-of-the-pack team. I think they could win 10 games, but they're probably 9-8 to me. We have the Denver Broncos. I have them as any given Sunday. Wow. The Denver Broncos may have one of the worst rosters in the NFL. I think the pedigree and what Sean Payton can get out of his players speaks a lot to what this team can do. We saw them go 7-10 last year, I believe, and I believe they're probably at another 7-10 finish, something around there. I think they need another year, get out from this dead cap hit, and the Broncos are really building something special. I do think they probably got their guy in Bo Nix. So with that being said, any given Sunday Broncos, I would not expect to just roll them over. Detroit Lions, we have a Super Bowl contenders. They were really close to getting there last year, and I think they upgraded their roster, bringing in DJ Reader. They completely transformed that secondary room with, they traded for Carlton Davis. They got Terrion Arnold. They got Ennis Rakestraw Jr. So it's going to be a very interesting year for the Detroit Lions to see if they can, kind of build on what they had last year. we have the Green Bay Packers. I have them as Super Bowl contenders as well. So they're a super young team last year. They were able to keep most of their core. They brought in Josh Jacobs, which I don't think is really an upgrade from Aaron Jones. He is younger, so he may be healthier, but I think it's kind of a wash. I think, Aaron Jones is a pretty explosive player, and when he's healthy, he is elite, similar to Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs he's not the most efficient runner, but he does get it done on the ground. They do have a young offensive line, so I'm really interested to see how that kind of develops. But overall, the Packers are a really young team. They're moving in the right direction. Also want to see how their secondary plays this year. With the Houston Texans, they're Super Bowl contenders, right? With all the moves that they went out and made, they got Danielle Hunter, they got Stephon Diggs. Interestingly enough, I know they got some draft picks, but traded out of the first round, which I don't necessarily all the way agree with, but I do understand their thought process. Now, with that being said, the Texans have a young quarterback, and this is what we see a lot with sophomore quarterbacks is sometimes they struggle in their second year because teams get tape on them and they know what defenses know what to throw up against them. So it's going to be interesting to see if CJ Stroud, which I don't know if Stroud is going to be as affected as other rookie or sophomore quarterbacks, because Stroud is not somebody who Stroud is able to stand in a dirty pocket and make a really, really good throw, and that's not something even veteran quarterbacks can do. So Stroud to me strikes me as kind of a next level processor where I don't know if regardless of what, even if he may struggle at some points during his sophomore year, I believe he will get it figured out. Indianapolis Colts. This is similar to the Cleveland Browns. Now, I don't see them as Super Bowl contenders, and I don't see them, but I do see them as playoffs or middle of the pack. They have one of the best rosters in the NFL, in my opinion. Definitely top 10. And yes, Samson Ebukam went down. That is a big loss for them. But Leatu Latu has been looking like a stud. And if Anthony Richardson can take that step, they really should be a playoff team. If he doesn't, he's more middle of the pack. I am going to put them middle of the pack because of the fact that we don't know what Anthony Richardson is. We do not know how he's going to play this year. He is still essentially a rookie. He's had 17 starts, I believe, from college and NFL at this point. So while he is a superstar athlete, can he make those strides as a quarterback? Let's move to the Jacksonville Jaguars. They upgraded their team, right, in the offseason. I think they grabbed Eric Armstead. I think he's getting looked over quite a bit. Brian Thomas Jr. is an addition. I think losing Calvin Ridley with what they brought in Gabe Davis and Brian Thomas Jr., I think they actually added to the wide receiver room. Evan Ingram, really underrated tight end. And I hope Doug Peterson is calling plays. I hope it's not Press Taylor. If that is the case, this team should be a Super Bowl contender. But until I know that, I'm going to leave them in the playoffs. Josh Allen, Trayvon Walker, Tyson Campbell. Like this defense is good under Ryan Nielsen. Hopefully they can take those steps. I don't even know if I'm going to talk about anything here. Their team got better, and they're going to three-peat this year. Probably, maybe, I don't know. Las Vegas Raiders. Any given Sunday, I think under Antonio Pierce, this team is a feisty team and not someone that you want to see. I don't think they're the most talented roster in the world. I think they have very strong talent in some places, like Devontae Adams, right? Very strong. Brock Bowers, very strong, we hope. Max Crosby, very strong. Christian Wilkins, very strong. But outside of that, do you have just the average roster talent? Like Colton Miller, good tackle. Outside of that, I don't know if they're like batting average on most position groups. And that is where I come with my issues for the Las Vegas Raiders. But Antonio Pierce is going to make sure they play hard, and I would not want to face them. I'm going to put the Los Angeles Chargers right in the middle of the pack, and I could see them making the playoffs. Jim Harbaugh is a program changer and culture changer. While they do not have the skill positions, I believe that the Chargers had a very good roster last year and a very good roster the year before, and it was severely hampered by coaching. The Chargers well and away could make the playoffs this year, possibly even win a divisional game. Do I know if that's going to happen? No. And I think sometimes the skill position talent on offense is really going to hurt them, but they're going to run the ball and they're going to do it well. So I'm going to put them right in the middle of the pack, but I could definitely see them in the playoff tier, and that may change as the year goes on. Los Angeles Rams, I think they're Super Bowl contenders. I know we have a lot of Super Bowl contenders here. Now, the Rams added a lot on defense. They did lose Aaron Donald, though. And you can't replace Aaron Donald, but you can do a good job getting Jared Verse and Braden Fisk. They also added to the secondary. I think what they did on offense, drafting Blake Corum, was good as well. I think Matt Stafford, if he can stay healthy, Puka Nacua, if he can keep on the trajectory that he is, and Cooper Kupp can stay healthy, I don't know why this team cannot be a Super Bowl contender. Whenever Stafford and McVay are in the picture, I cannot doubt them. Miami Dolphins, playoff team, you have to do it. You give Tua the extension. Christian Wilkins walks. You get a new DC in there. Vic Fangio wasn't the guy for you, apparently. You have Tyreek Hill. You pay Jalen Waddle. You have Jalen Wright. You have Devon Achane. You have Raheem Mostert. This team has to make noise in the playoffs, or else some serious questions are going to come. Any given Sunday, I have the Minnesota Vikings. They could be middle of the pack, but let's be real. Sam Darnold is their quarterback. You have Aaron Jones as your running back. I like your tackle situation. The interior of the offensive line is okay, but I think with the talent addition of, Stephon Gilmore, of Dallas Turner, while Stephon Gilmore is older, I think you can get enough out of him through 17 games, but their corner room is still very, very tough situation. You have Sean Murphy-Bunting, which I do like. Sean Murphy-Bunting, yeah, right? Or am I thinking of? Yeah, it's got to be Sean Murphy-Bunting. It was one of the Buccaneers players. But anyway, with that being said, your corner room is good. Brian Flores and Kevin O'Connell provide you with a floor where I don't think you'll ever be a bottom feeder. Moving into the New England Patriots, I have them in the basement. That offensive line is scary. They don't want to start Drake May because they know the offensive line is scary. All your skill positions are young and unproven. Now, you do have a decent defense, but you traded Judon away. Okay. You have Kyle Duggar. You have Christian Gonzalez in the secondary, but Christian Barmore is kind of out indefinitely with the blood clots. We don't know when he's going to be back, and it's a brand new coaching staff. So the best thing for the Patriots is to lose almost every game this year. I have the Saints at middle of the pack, and this is why. They could very well win the NFC South. My issue with the Saints is their offensive line is really, really, really bad. Tuisa Fuaga is a rookie tackle, and we know Trevor Penny didn't pan out. Ryan Ramczyk is gone. The interior is just a mess. But you have very elite talent. You have Chris Olave. You have Alvin Kamara. You have Demario Davis. You have Cam Jordan. You have Marshawn Lattimore. You have Tyrann Mathieu, I wouldn't consider him elite, but he's a good player. You have these guys that should uplift your roster. And don't forget Chase Young. Chase Young is not a scrub. But do you have the depth? Do you have the play calling? Can Clint Kubiak be that guy for the Saints this year? They could make the 7th seed. They could win the NFC South. But right now I have the middle of the pack. I have the Giants as bottom feeders, guys. They are probably my least favorite team in the NFL. You go out, right? You let Saquon walk. Fine, whatever. You bring in Devin Singletary. You have Malik Neighbors. Okay, Daniel Jones sucks. Let's be real. Daniel Jones sucks. I don't want to be rude, but he sucks. And Drew Lock is your backup. You say you want to upgrade the offensive line. You may have done it marginally, very, very small, but it is not a huge upgrade from last year. The defense, yeah, you have Kayvon Thibodeau. Yeah, you have Deonte Banks, who's been You have, in my opinion, I mean, Deonte Banks still has time to grow. We know corners take a while. So he could very well be better this year. You have Dexter Lawrence and you have Brian Bird. So you have a pass rush, right? But can that compensate for a guy you lost in Xavier McKinney in the safety position? He was probably one of the best safeties, if not the best safety in the league. He goes, right? So you lose your best offensive and defensive player from last year outside of, Dexter Lawrence. So I don't know if the Giants have enough horses to get over their schedule this year if you look at what they're playing. I have the New York Jets, and I have them in the playoffs. they should be in the Super Bowl contender tier. And they are higher than all of these teams except the Browns in this. If there was a tier between these two, it would be the Browns and the Jets. And the reason I have the Jets here is they haven't won more than 7 games in a very long time. I believe it has been like 2014 maybe. I looked it up in a recent video. But the reality is the Jets need to prove it before I'm putting them in the Super Bowl contender. Because I put them there last year. Yes, Aaron Rodgers tore his ACL. That was unforeseeable. But the reality is, I need to see it. I need to see it all together. That line, great, if healthy, right? That defensive unit, one of the best in the league. Can A-Rod stay healthy? Can Mike Williams stay healthy? Because if Mike Williams isn't there, then we have what? Allen Lazard, Malachi Corley, Breece Hall. Can he stay healthy? I like Breece Hall. I think he's one of the best backs in the league. Can Aaron Rodgers stay healthy? It's a lot of health issues with the Jets. Eagles, Super Bowl contenders. We saw they kind of struggled last year. They got some adults, some real strong defensive coordinator, Vic Fangio. We got Kellen Moore. Should be an upgrade. I think this year is going to be a lot different than last year. I think there was a lot of dysfunction. Now, I do think that, they got Quinion Mitchell. They got Cooper DeJean. They upgraded their secondary. It's going to be a big thing, though, with, a lot of people like Cam Jurgens, but Jason Kelsey's a Hall of Famer. So we need to see how that offensive line looks. They're still going to have probably one of the better units in the league. I'm just saying, there is a big difference. I do think Saquon's going to have a great year, though. Eagles should be Super Bowl contenders. Middle of the pack, I have the Steelers. Their quarterback situation, a lot of people laud it. Oh, they got Russ, we got Justin. But neither of them look good. And the offensive line is young. It is young. So I don't really know what to think of the Steelers. Their defense should obviously get them going. Peyton Wilson was a really good pick. You'll probably get your rookie contract out of him, especially with his knees. So while I do like the Steelers, from a team standpoint, I really do think the quarterback situation is going to hinder them, especially not having a weapon outside of George Pickens. San Francisco 49ers, not much to say here. They really should be Super Bowl contenders, barring any injuries. I mean, they're Super Bowl contenders. They have one of the best rosters in the NFL. Seattle Seahawks, middle of the pack. I think they could be a playoff team. They have the talent, especially with getting Byron Murphy. They have a defensive-minded head coach who showed he can build one of the best defenses in the league. New offensive coordinator. It is a whole new thing. So I do think, they will be middle of the pack. I think they have enough talent. I do think they can make the playoffs, though. It is going to be an interesting year for the Seattle Seahawks. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I got them right in the middle of the pack, honestly. Baker Mayfield, hopefully he can repeat what he did last year. They have a new OC, Liam Cohen. He came from Kentucky. He was in the Rams system. Dave Canales goes to Carolina. I think this team has a lot of veteran talent. I think Yaya Diaby. Yeah, Yaya Diaby, right? I'm thinking of Divine Diablo from the Raiders. But Yaya Diaby could take another step. Obviously, you have Graham Barton coming in from the center to replace Ryan Jensen. I think that was a really good pick. So the defense should be decent. The offense should be decent. They could overperform like they did last year and easily be a playoff team. But I need to see Baker with the new OC, and I think that's what make the horses go. Tennessee Titans, I have them middle of the pack as well. They very well could be a playoff team, like I was saying about the Bucs. I just need to see it. I do think some of their O-line is a little bit rough, but at the end of the day, when you think about it, they have one of the best offensive line coaches in Bill Callahan there. So I think they should be able to overperform. I want to see if they're able to get the run game going. Calvin Ridley, DeAndre Hopkins, and Tyler Boyd is nothing to scoff at. They actually have a good defense. I think a lot of people are overlooking the Titans, where if these veterans all mesh and play well and this coaching staff can get it figured out, this could be a playoff team that possibly wins a game. Washington Commanders, last team. I'm going to give them any given Sunday. I think with the threat of Jaden Daniels and his legs, you have a chance to beat anybody. Dan Quinn is going to get that defense right. Hopefully, yes, this team has its holes. Very obvious. after Terry McLaurin. You don't really know what you're getting. Brian Robinson, Austin Eckler, not the greatest running back duo. But if Cliff Kingsbury can just get the offense to score a couple times and the defense can get going with Dan Quinn, I think this team could end up with 7 wins. But overall, this has been week 1 power rankings. Thank you guys so much for watching. We're going to try to do this every week, whether it's power rankings. We're going to do a ranking every Friday. So thank you guys so much for watching. Have a great rest of your day. Enjoy. This is who's day 2? We got Baltimore Chiefs day 1, and then we got Eagles Packers. Tune in on Saturday. We're going to be doing live game picks around 9:45, 10 o'clock in the morning Central Time, so we can get you in and out and then watch college games. Have a great rest of your night. Don't forget to subscribe if you don't know ball and want to know ball.